So, Hare Krishna, Prabhu Mother, yes, welcome all of you for this Srimad Bhagavatam session today. And today is 8th of March 2025. So, thank you for keeping the appointment, Krishna, today. So, today we'll be actually discussing from 4th Canto, 13th chapter, the second half. There are actually 49 verses in this chapter. I think last Saturday, Prabhu has taken up to, I think, 24 or so. So, from 25 to, we'll take. Because a lot of verses are there. We'll just, whatever is possible within the time limit, we'll try to take some blessings. जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरवरधारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीर वनचारी यमुना तीर वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 रामा राम रामा हरे हरे जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय जगन्नाथ बलदेव माई की जय नरसिंह भगवान की जय पंचतत्व की जय षड गोस्वामी की जय गुरु परंपरा की जय श्री प्रभुपाद की जय गुरुदेव ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन
लाइट बंद करना
तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः श्री
लगा
चैतन्य
दे कुकर उसको
स्थापितं येन भूतले
सिम में लगा दे
भगवता मह्यं ददाति सुपदादिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सगण रघुनाथामितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सगणलिता श्रीविशाखातांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धु भवेव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरवृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे योऽन्तः प्रविश्य मम वाचमिमां प्रसुप्तां सञ्जीवयति अखिलशक्तिधरस्वधाम्ना अन्यां च हस्तचरणश्रवणत्वगादीन् प्राणानमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यम् मुखं करोतु वाचारं भङ्गं नङ्गेति गिरिमिति नमो महाशिव So, Hare Krishna, Prabhu Mataji, thank you very much and welcome all of you for joining. So, we'll be discussing from verse number 24 to 49 from 4th Canto, 13th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. Etad akyahi me brahman sunītātmaja cheshtitam shraddadhanaya bhaktaya tvam paravaravittamaha. So in this translation, National Prabhu Prabhupada ki jai. So Vidura is requesting Matra Muni, my dear Brahmana, you are well conversant with all subjects, both past and future. Therefore, I wish to hear from you all the activities of King Vena. I am your faithful devotee. So please explain this. See, Vidura accepted Maitreya as his spiritual master. A disciple always inquires from the spiritual master, and the spiritual master answers the question, provided the disciple is very gentle and devoted. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura said that by the mercy of the spiritual master, one is blessed with the mercy of the Supreme Lord. The spiritual master is not inclined to disclose all the secrets of transcendental science unless the disciple is very submissive and devoted. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the process of receiving knowledge from the spiritual master entails submission, inquiry, and service. Now, here he's talking about, Vidura is asking Maitreya, no, I wish to hear from you all the activities of King Vena. Now, how come? Who is King Vena? So in the previous verses, we might have already heard last week. Just actually, he was the son of King Anga. Right? King Anga was a very high character, very wonderful, saintly person, and he was a lover of Brahminical culture and all, right? But such a great soul, he had a bad son like Vena. Because of him, he became indifferent to his kingdom and left it. So that's what we will see today. So now Maitreya Muni is replying from 25th verse. Maitreya Vacha Ango Shvamedam Rajarashir Ajahara Mahakratum Najagmur Devata Sasmin Ahuta Brahma Vadibihi. Sri Maitreya replied, my dear Vidura, once the great king Anga arranged to perform the great sacrifice known as Ashwamedha. So King Anga wanted to perform a Ashwamedha sacrifice. So what happened? All the expert Brahmanas, they were there. And those days, the Brahmanas were very pure, right? So they knew how to invite the demigods. But in spite of their efforts, what happened? None of the demigods participated or appeared in the sacrifice. So the purport Prabhupada says, a Vedic sacrifice is not an ordinary performance. The demigods, they used to participate in such sacrifices. And in fact, the animals also sacrificed in such performances were reincarnated with new life. In this age of Kali, there are no powerful Brahmanas who can invite the demigods or give renewed life to animals. Formerly, the Brahmanas were well conversant in Vedic mantras. So they could show the potency of the mantras. Sorry. But in this age, because there are no such Brahmanas, all such sacrifices are forbidden. The sacrifice in which horses were offered was called Ashwamedha. Ashwa means horse, right? So Ashwamedha sacrifice. Sometimes cows were sacrificed, Gavalamba. Not for eat, it's a very important purpose, not for eating purposes, but to give them the new life in order to show the potency of the mantra. And in this Kali Yuga, in this age, the only practical yajna is Sankirtan yajna, or chanting the Hare Krishna mantra 24 hours a day. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Tamuchur Vismitas Tatra Yajamanam Athartvijah Havimshi Huyamanani Nate Grihnanti Devataha. Now, the priests, because King Anga wanted to perform that sacrifice, right? So the priests, he started engaging the sacrifice and then informed King Anga, O king, we are properly offering the clarified butter in the sacrifice. But despite all our efforts, the demigods do not accept it. They informed King Anga. They said they are doing all the mantras, everything perfectly. But demigods are not accepting it. So the 27th verse says, Rajan havim shadushtani Shraddaya sadithani te Chundam siyayata ayata yamani Yojitani dhrita vrataihi. O king, we know that the paraphernalia to perform the sacrifice is well collected by you with great faith and care, and it is not polluted. So he is telling whatever you collected and given, the ingredients, they're very nicely, very great faith and care, and it's not polluted. So you've given all those for the sacrifice very perfectly. And our chanting of the Vedic hymns also not deficient in any way. We are always perfect. There is nothing wrong in our we feel that we have done very perfectly. For all the Brahmanas and priests present here are expert and are executing performances properly. In the purport, Prabhupada says, it is a practice of the Brahmanas conversant with the signs to pronounce a Vedic mantra in the right accent. That is very important. Without knowing, those says, you can see, of course, nowadays you see some of the priests, they really chant nicely, when all of them chant together, the vibration is so wonderful, right? Because the perfection of the chanting of the mantras. So they said we are doing perfectly. The combination of the mantra and Sanskrit words must be chanted with the right pronunciation. Otherwise, it will not be successful. In this age, the Brahmanas are neither well versed in the Sanskrit language nor very pure in practical life. But Prabhupada gives a very encouraging statement, right? But by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one can attain the highest benefit of sacrificial performances. Even if the Hare Krishna mantra is not chanted properly, it still has so much potency that the chanter gains the perfect. So that's why chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is the most powerful in this Kali Yuga. That's why even main purpose, the best mantra for Kali Yuga is chanting Hare Krishna mantra. Brahmaji says, as he refers, as per in the Kali Sankara Upanishad, Iti Shodashaka Namnam Kali Kalmasha Nashanam Nataro Paratoro Sarva Vedishu Drishyate. Sthiti Shodashaka, that is 16-word mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama. After going through all the Vedas and Puranas, everything, they come to a conclusion that only this Hare Krishna mantra is the only thing that we can eradicate all the sinful activities and everything within the heart and cleanse in this yuga. So powerful. See, in the 20th verse, Navidameha devanam helanam vayamanvapi yenna grihnanti bhagan swan ye deva karma sakshinaha. Dear King, we do not find any reason that the demigod should feel insulted or neglected in any way. They said we did everything perfectly. You also bought all the ingredients perfectly. We also chanted the mantras perfectly. Everything's nice. And we are not insulted or neglected in any way. But still, the demigods who are witness for the sacrifice, they do not accept their shares. So we do not know why this is so. Prabhupada in the purport, he says, it is indicated herein that if there is negligence on the part of the priest, the demigods do not accept their share in sacrifices. Similarly, in devotional service, there are offenses known as seva aparada. Seva aparada. Those who are engaged in worshipping the deity, Radha and Krishna, in the temple should avoid such offenses in service. So what are those offenses? So the offenses in service are described in the Nectar of Devotion. That's a very very good book wherein everything is given. Beautiful. What are those offenses? Please go through that. See, if we simply Prabhupada says, if we simply make a show of offering to the deity, but do not care for the seva aparadha, certainly Radha and Krishna deity will not accept the offerings from such non-devotees. So devotees engaged in the temple worship should therefore not manufacture their own methods, but should strictly follow the regulative principles of cleanliness, and then offerings will be accepted. So in the 29th verse, Maitreya is telling, Maitreya vacha ango dvija vacha shrutva yajamana sudurmanaha tat prashtum vyasarjat vacham sadasyam stat anugnaya. Maitreya explained that King Anga, after hearing the statements of the priests, he was greatly aggrieved. He could not believe that because he wanted to perform that Ashwamedha sacrifice. At that time, he took permission from the priests to break his silence and inquired from all the priests who were present in the sacrificial arena. So what did he address? So he said, this 30th verse, Naga chantyahuta deva na grihnanti grihaniha Sadasaspatayo bhruta kimavadyam maya kritam. King Angara addressed the priestly order. My dear priests, kindly tell me what offense I have committed. Although invited, the demigods are neither taking part in the sacrifice nor accepting their shares. He is asking the priests. Sadasas patayochuhu naradeveha bhavato nagam tavan manakstitam astyekam prakritanam agham yad ihedriktvam aprajah. Now the head priest, he said, O king, in this life, we do not find any sinful activity, even within your mind. So even in the mind also doesn't think of anything sinful, the king. That's what the priest is telling. So you're not in the least offensive. You're not at all offensive in this. But we can see that in your previous life, you perform sinful activities due to which, in spite of your having all qualifications, you have no son. King Anga did not have any son. You said because so the purport Prabhupada is telling the purpose of marrying is to beget a son. Why? Because a son is necessary to deliver his father and forefathers from any hellish conditional life in which they may be. Now Chanakya Pandita says, Putra henam graham shunyam. Without a son, married life is simply abominable. King Anga is a very pious king in this life. But because of his previous sinful activity, he could not get a son. So it is concluded, therefore, that if a person does not get a son, it is due to his past sinful life. This 32nd verse. Tata sadhaya bhadram te atmanam suprajam nripa ishtaste putra kamasya putram dasyati yajnabhut. O king, now the priests, they are telling, we wish all good fortune for you. You have no son. But if you pray at once to the Supreme Lord and ask for a son, and if you execute the sacrifice for that purpose, the enjoyer of the sacrifice, Yajneshwara, right? Supreme Person of Godhead, he will fulfill your desire. So they're telling him what to do. So the 33rd verse he says, Tatasva bhagadeyani grahishyanti divaukasah yadagya purusha sakshad apatyaya harirvatah. When Hari, the supreme enjoyer of all sacrifices, when he is invited to fulfill your desire for a son, then all the demigods will come with him and take their shares in the sacrifice. So they're giving a solution. So the purport Prabhupada says, whenever a sacrifice is performed, it is meant for satisfying Lord Vishnu, the enjoyer of the fruits of all sacrifices. That we understand, right? And when Lord Vishnu agrees to come to a sacrificial arena, all the demigods naturally, they follow their master. And their shares are offered in such sacrifices. So the conclusion is that sacrifices performed are meant for Lord Vishnu, not for the demigods. So this is the point we should understand. Because they are trying to invite the demigod, but they were not coming, right? In the beginning, we just saw. But they say, if you offer it, invite the Supreme Person of God, pray to him, then when the Lord Vishnu is coming, then all the demigods definitely they will also follow. Right? So all the sacrifice actually performed for Lord Vishnu, not for the demigods. Because ultimately it goes to me and the sanction has to be given by Lord Vishnu. In the 34th verse, Tam stan kaman harir dadyad yan yan kamayate janaha aradhito yatai vaisha tatha pumsam phalodayah. The performer of the sacrifices under karma kanda activities achieves the fulfillment of the desire for which he worships the Lord. So Prabhupada is telling this purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that he awards benedictions to the worshipper according to his desire. The Supreme Personality of Godhead gives all living entities conditioned within this material world, full freedom to act in their own way. But to his devotee, he says that instead of working in that way, it is better to surrender unto him. For he will take charge of the devotee. That's what he's telling. Sarva dharmam parite, please surrender to me, I will take care. So that is the difference between a devotee and a fruitive worker. The fruitive actor enjoys only the fruits of his own activities. But a devotee, being under the guidance of the Supreme Lord, simply advances in devotional service to achieve the ultimate goal of life. What is the ultimate goal of life? To go back home, back to Godhead. So the significant word in this verse is kaman, which means sense gratificatory desires. A devotee is devoid of all kama. So what is a devotee? He is anya abhilashita shunya. A devotee is always devoid of all desires for sense gratification. So his only aim is to satisfy or gratify the senses of the Lord, not his. So that is the difference between a karmi and a devotee. The 35th verse. Iti vivasita vipras tasya ragya prajataye purodasham nirapam shipi vishtaya vishnave. Thus, for the sake of a son for King Anga, they means the Brahmanas, they decide to offer oblations to Lord Vishnu, who is situated in the hearts of all living entities. According to sacrificial rituals, animals are sometimes sacrificed in the yajna arena. Such animals are sacrificed not to kill them. You should understand this point. Not to kill them, but to give them new life. Such action was an experiment to observe whether the Vedic mantras were being properly pronounced. Sometimes small animals are killed in a medical laboratory, to investigate therapeutic effects. Prabhu very nicely gives this example. In a medical clinic, animals are not revived, but in the yajna arena, when animals are sacrificed, they are again given life by the potency of the Vedic mantras. The word Shipi Vishtaya appears in this verse. And Shipi means the flames of the sacrifice. Shipi. So in the sacrificial fire, if the oblations are offered into the flames, then Lord Vishnu is situated there in the form of the flames. Therefore, Lord Vishnu is known as Shipi Vishta. Tasmat Purusha Uttastau He Mamal Malyamalatmaraha Hiranmayena Patrena Siddham Adaya Payasam. What is payasam? Rice boiled in milk. We know about that, right? As soon as the oblation was offered in the fire, a person appeared from the fire altar wearing a golden garland and a white dress. He was carrying a golden pot filled with rice boiled in milk, payasam. Savipranumato raja Gritvanjalino danam avagraya mudayuktaha pradat patnya udaradihi. Udaradihi means liberal-minded. The king was very liberal. And after taking permission from the priests, he took the preparation in his joined palms, that is payasam. And after smelling it, he offered a portion to his wife. The word Udaradihi is significant in this connection. So the wife of the king Anga is Sunita. Prabhupada says the wife of King Sunita was not fit to accept this benediction. Yet the king was so liberal that without hesitation he offered to his wife the boiled rice and milk, prasada, received from the Yajna Purusha. Of course, everything is designed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As will be explained in later verses, this incident was not very favorable for the king. Since the king was very liberal, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in order to increase his detachment from this material world, very important point we should understand, right? Since the king was very liberal, Supreme Personality of Godhead, it's all his plan. In order to increase the king's detachment from this material world, what did he do? He willed that a cruel son be born to the king so that the king would have to leave home. As stated above, Lord Vishnu fulfills the desires of the karmis as they desire. But it's a very powerful, very nice. Please listen. See, Lord Vishnu fulfills the desires of karmis as they desire. Okay. But the Lord fulfills the desire of a devotee in a different way, so that the devotee may gradually come to him. Karmis desire, they will be still here, enjoying, but still temporary suffering. But the desire of devotee, so that devotee may gradually come to him. So this is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. In this seed verse of Bhagavad Gita. So the Lord gives the devotee the opportunity to make progress further and further, so that he may come back home, back to Godhead. This is the difference. Satat pum savanam ragni prashyavai patyuradhade garbham kala upavritte kumaram sushuve apraja. Although the queen had no son, after eating that food, the payasam which was given, which had the power to produce a male child, she became pregnant by her husband. And in due course of time, she gave birth to a son. Purport. Among the 10 kinds of purificatory processes, one is Pumsavanam, in which the wife is offered some prasada or remnants of foodstuff offered to Lord Vishnu, so that after sexual intercourse with her husband, she may conceive a child. See, here it's talking about 10 kinds of purificatory processes. See, where are the various samskaras or purificatory ceremonies? And this is prescribed for every civilized person from birth to death. See, many of these samskaras are not being observed today. Today means nowadays. So the real aim of samskaras is to, Prabhupada says in one of the, I think in the book, Civilization and Transcendence, right? Where he says the real aim of samskara is to bring a rascal to the platform of knowledge. Janmana jayate shudraha. See, by birth, everyone is the same, Shudras. One is, Shudra means one without any knowledge. So, the purpose of samskara is to gradually bring a person who has no knowledge of spiritual life to the spiritual platform. Sorry. It is samskarat bhavet dvijah. So, by the purificatory process, one attains spiritual rebirth, and that is essential. Human life, okay, we are on this human form of life, we got of so much, 84 lakh species and all. So, human life is the opportunity for understanding what one is and what the aim of one's life is. What is the aim of life? The aim of life is to go back home, back to Godhead. See, after all, we are all part and parcel of Krishna, right? So somehow or the other, we are now in this middle existence. So the real aim of life is to return to the spiritual world, where there is no struggle for existence. It's completely blissful, happy life. We all want unending, blissful life. But it's not possible in the material world. That happiness is in the spiritual world. So our aim should be to go there. And every human being should be given the chance, right? That is real education. That is called samskara, the process of purification. So altogether, there are dashavida samskara. That means 10 kinds of purificatory processes. So in this age, it is very difficult to follow them. But Prabhupada says, if one chants Hare Krishna Mahamantra without any offense, under the guidance of a spiritual master, all these samskaras automatically become fulfilled. And one returns to his original spiritual position. See how powerful, right? You may not be able to do all those samskaras, although there are a few of them which we are doing. But even if you don't, not able to do, but if you do the Hare Krishna Mantra chanting without any offense, under the guidance of a spiritual master, all these samskaras automatically become fulfilled. and one returns to his original spiritual position. There's one question to Prabhupada. Prabhupada, you said that samskara should be revived as far as necessary. Prabhupada said, of course, the essentials. For instance, Prabhupada is telling, to make one a Brahmana, four things are essential. To make one a Brahmana, four things are essential. No illicit sex, no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling. The four regulative principles. So these essentials must be there. You cannot dispense with them. You must at least avoid sinful activities. Then one can practice Krishna consciousness. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7.28, Yesham tvantagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandvamoha nirmukta bhajante mam dhradavrtaha. Persons who acted piously in previous lives and in this life and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated are freed from the dualities of delusion and they engage themselves in my service with determination. You cannot become a devotee unless you give up sinful activity. So you have to begin by following these four prohibitions. You have to avoid sinful activities like illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication, including tobacco, coffee, and tea. Then you will gradually become completely sinless. See, on one side, you have to follow restrictions. And on the other side, you have to engage yourself in devotional service. To engage oneself in devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master and the Shastras is the way to remain on the transcendental platform. So the transcendental platform means there is no sinful activity. It is above any question of sinful. See, pious and sinful activities are there only as long as you are on the material platform. Good and bad, pious and sinful, these are all considerations on the material platform. But when you are on the transcendental platform, you are automatically without sin. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 14.26, Mam cha yo avvabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate saguna samati tyaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. The life of vice and the life of piety are within this material world. But when one is spiritually engaged, he is above the material plane. Then he is on the spiritual plane. So the whole thing is that if you chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and give up these sinful activities, automatically you become reformed. You come to the spiritual platform. And in this way, your life will become successful. See, this Dashavida Samskara, right? 10 kinds of purificatory process. You know, what are these 10 kinds of processes? Just give a brief glimpse of it. So these samskara are purificatory rites, no, which sanctify the life of the people, especially the Hindus, right? So they give a spiritual touch to the important events in the life of an individual from conception to cremation. The 10 principal and generally recognized samskaras are Garbhadana, Pumsavana, that's what we were talking about in this verse, Simantonayana, Jatakarma, Namakarana, Annaprashana, Chudakarma, Upanayana, Samavartana, and Vivaha. 10 of this. So of these 10, no, only some are being performed nowadays. Especially, see, the Garbhadana everybody knows, right? This is for the progeny, for good progeny to come. That is the Garbhadana Samskara. And Pumsavana is done in the 3rd month. Already the wife is pregnant, but in the 3rd month, right, and the child is in the womb of the mother. Pumsavana is performed in mantras. So the food sheath, the vital sheath of the child are formed slowly. So then Simantonayana is performed at the 7th month with the recitation of Vedic mantras. So this protects the mother from evil influences and bestows good health on the child. So this Garbhadana, Pumsavana, and Sinatana, these 3 samskara protect the mother and the child. So the body of the child develops nicely, right? So these harmonious vibrations, they set up the recitation of mantras, and the performance ceremonies help in shaping the body of the child beautifully. That's why this Hare Krishna mantra is very powerful. Even if you don't do properly also, it doesn't matter. Just by chanting Hare Krishna, all the other things automatically follow. That's why people say when the wife is pregnant, they should see all good things and also recite the shlokas from Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, right? Then the child will be very beautifully shaped. Then comes Jata Karma, right? Ceremony performed immediately after the birth of the child. So the father welcomes the newborn child, prays for his long life, intelligence. So all these things are there, the Jata Karma. Then Nama Karma, naming ceremony, right? Then Anna Prashna. This is in the sixth month when the child is given this solid food first time. Then Chuda Karma, shaving of the hair and all, right? Head. Then Upanayana. That's very most important ceremony, which marks the beginning of the next stage of life, right? It's a very important samskara. It is a landmark in the life of the child because he is initiated, right? First initiation is by the parents, mother and father, and second one is by the through the spiritual master. So these are the 10. I mean, then of course, sorry. Then comes Samvartana. That is at the end of the student tree. Samvartana. The student has completed the Vedic studies, right? And then the 10th one is the Vivaha. Marriage into the second ashrama, Grihastha ashrama. Just wanted to give a glimpse of this because you cannot discuss more in this small short time. So these are the Dashavida Samskara, 10 kinds of purificative process. So when one undergoes all these processes and at last comes to the spiritual master, he gives him the sacred thread, second birth. Duja. Duja means second birth. See, one birth by the father and mother, other birth by the spiritual master, and this is called second birth. So at that time, he's given the chance to study and understand what is Veda. Veda Pathat Bhaved Vipra. By studying very nicely all the Vedas, one becomes Vipra. So when he actually realizes what is Brahman and his relationship with him, then he becomes a Brahmana. So Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita, Janma Karma Chame Divyam Yo Janati Tatvata. Anyone who knows me in truth, what happens to him? Right? Tyakta Deham Punar Janma Naiti, 4.9. Such person, after giving up this body, do not come back again in this material world to accept a material body. Then what happens to him? Mam eti. He comes to me, back home, back to God. So Prabhupada says, this Krishna conscious movement is directly giving people how to understand Krishna. Janma karma chime divyam yo janati tattvatam. Tattvatam means truth. That is right. So we are giving Krishna knowledge based on authorized scriptures, Bhagavad Gita. Now Vedas. Veda means knowledge. Vedanta means ultimate end of knowledge. So what is the end of knowledge? That is Krishna. Vedesha sarvera aham eva vedya. 15.15 Bhagavad Gita says. See, by all the Vedas, the ultimate conclusion should be Krishna. Bahunam Janmana Mante. 7.19 Bhagavad Gita says. See, this conclusion comes after many, many births. Bahunam Janmana Mante Jnanavan. After culturing knowledge for many, many births, when actually one becomes wise, then Bahunam Janmana Mante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyati. He surrenders unto Krishna. How he surrenders? Because he knows Vasudevam Sarvamiti. Vasudev Krishna is everything. Whatever you see, it is simply a manifestation of the energy of Vasudeva. So one must be convinced on this fact. Then he becomes a devotee. Prapadyate. Krishna therefore advises that you understand or not understand. Doesn't matter. Sarva dharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. Surrender unto me. Simply surrender unto me. So what Krishna has taught in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says we are teaching the same without any difference or many manufactured ideas. No. As it is. This is our Krishna conscious movement. And it is open to everyone. Process is very simple. Prabhupada, we got our centers here. If you want to take advantage of this moment, you are welcome. You will be happy. If your Prabhupada says, you will be happy. So this 10 samskar are very important. I'll just again share the screen. Just because I wanted to just tell about those purificatory. They said 10 kinds of purificatory. One is the 38 verse, one is one which wife is offered some prasada. So in the 39th verse, Sabala eva purusho matamaham anuvratah adharmam adharmam shodbhavam mrityum tena bhavat adharmikah. That boy was born partially in the dynasty of irreligion. His grandfather was death personified. The boy grew up as his follower. He became a greatly irreligious person. So is the child's mother, no? Sunita was the daughter of death personified. Generally, the daughter receives the qualification of the father, and the son acquires those of the mother. So, according to the axiomatic truth that things equal to the same thing are equal to one another, the child born of King Anga became the follower of his maternal grandfather. According to Smriti Shastra, a child generally follows the principles of his maternal uncle's house. Narana Mathura Karma means the child generally follows the qualities of his maternal family. If the maternal family is very corrupt or sinful, the child, even though born of a good father, becomes a victim of the maternal family. According to Vedic civilization, therefore, before the marriage takes place, no, an account is taken of both the boys and girls' families. If according to astrology calculation, combination is perfect, then marriage takes place. Sometimes, however, there is a mistake and the family life becomes frustrating. So this was being done. Nowadays, hardly people just dating, get married, right? That's why those days, all these things, but now that's why we are having divorce and so many other things, people are not following the Shastras. It appears that King Anga did not get a very good wife in Sunita because she was the daughter of death personified. Sometimes the Lord arranges an unfortunate wife for his devotee. It's a very powerful statement this Prabhupada is giving here. Sometimes the Lord arranges an unfortunate wife for his devotee so that gradually, due to family circumstances, the devotee becomes detached from his wife and home and makes progress in devotional life. It appears that by the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, King Anga, although a pious devotee, got an unfortunate wife like Sunita and later on a bad child like Vena. But the result was that he got complete freedom from the entanglement of family life and left home to go back to Godhead. Very difficult to understand. But that's what is very powerful statement, right? See, Narsi Mehta was a very nice Vaishnava saint. What happened? Narsi Mehta's wife died. So he was not disturbed. He went to Krishna and said, "You have taken her away. Now I am free to worship you." Then there are two other saints in Maharashtra. One is Sant Eknath and the other one is Sant Tukaram. Now, Sant Eknath had a very good wife. So he went to Krishna and said, "Thank you, Krishna. You have given me a very nice wife. And because of this, I am coming to you." And Sant Tukaram had a horrible wife. But he also went to Krishna and said, "Thank you, Krishna. You have given me a bad wife. And that is why I am coming to you." So in every situation, no wife, good wife or bad wife, the saints went to Krishna. This is it. See, it's all plan of Krishna, right? So the result he got was complete freedom, right? Now in the 40th verse, Sa sharasanam udyamya mrigayorvana gocharaha hantya sadur mrigandhinan venosav ityaraujanaha. After fixing his bow and arrow, the cruel boy, who is the king, cruel boy? King Vena. He was not a king, he was Vena. He used to go to the forest and unnecessarily kill innocent deer. And as soon as he came All the people would cry. Here comes the cruel Vena, here comes cruel Vena. See, Kshatriyas are allowed to hunt in the forest for the purpose of learning the killing art, not to kill animals for eating or for any other purpose. The Kshatriya kings were sometimes expected to cut off the head of a culprit in the state. For this reason, Kshatriyas were allowed to hunt in the forest. Now, because the son, King Anga, Vena, was born of a bad mother, he was very cruel. And he used to go to the forest, unnecessarily kill the animals. So all the neighboring inhabitants would be frightened by his presence. And they would call, here comes Vena, here comes Vena. So from the beginning of his life, he was fearful to the citizens. Akride kridato bhalan vayasan adidharunah prasahya niranukrosha pashumaram amarayat. The boy was so cruel that while playing with young boys of his age, he would kill them very mercilessly, as if they were animals meant for slaughter. Tam vichakshya kalam putram shasaner vividher nृपः yadana shasitum kalpo vrisham asit sudurmanaha. After seeing the cruel and merciless behavior of his son, Vena, King Anga punished him in different ways to reform him. Father tries to reform him, right? But was unable to bring him to the path of gentleness. He thus became very greatly aggrieved. Actually, any parent will be very unhappy, right? प्रायेणाभ्यर्चितो देवो ये अप्रजागः मेदिनः तदप्यत्यभृतं दुःखं येन विन्दन्ति दुर्भरम्. The king thought to himself, persons who have no son are certainly fortunate. They must have worshipped the Lord in their previous life so that they would not have to suffer the unbearable happiness caused by a bad son. Prabhu says in the purport, it is said that married couple must have a son. Otherwise, their family life is void. But a son born without good qualities is as good as a blind eye. A blind eye has no use for seeing, but is simply unbearably painful. So the king therefore thought himself very unfortunate to have such a bad son. Yata papiyasi kirtir adharmascha mahanranam yato viroda sarvesham yata adir anantakaha. A sinful son causes a person's reputation to vanish. His irreligious activities at home cause irreligion and quarrel among everyone, and this creates only endless anxiety. Kastum prajapadesham vai mohabandhanam atmanah pandito bahumanyeta yadartha kleshadagraha. Who, if he is considerate and intelligent, would desire such a worthless son? Such a son is nothing but a bond of illusion for the living entity, and he makes one's home miserable. Kadapatyam varam manye sadapatyach chucham padat nirvidyeta grahan martyo yat klesha nivahagraha. Then the king thought, a bad son is better than a good son, because a good son creates an attachment for home, whereas a bad son does not. A bad son creates a hellish home from which an intelligent man naturally becomes very easily detached. The purport, Prabhupada says, the king began to think in terms of attachment and detachment from one's material home. According to Prahlad Maharaj, the material home is compared to a blind well. If a man falls down into a blind well, it is very difficult to get out of it and begin life again. So Prahlad Maharaj has advised that one give up this blind well of home, right? Life, this home life, right? As soon as possible, and go to the forest to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. According to Vedic civilization, this giving up of home by Vanaprastha and Sannyasa is compulsory. But people are so attached to their homes that even up to the point of death, they do not like to retire from home life. King Anga, therefore, thinking in terms of detachment, accepted his bad son as a good impetus for detachment from home life. He therefore considered his bad son his friend, since he was helping him become detached from his home. Ultimately, one has to learn how to detach oneself from the attachment to material life. Therefore, if a bad son by his bad behavior helps a householder to go away from home, it is a boon. It's a very powerful statement given, right? See, a good son is called apatya. One who does not allow his father to fall down. He is a good son. The son can, because if good son, no, he can protect his father's soul when the father is dead by offering sacrifices to please the Supreme Lord Vishnu. So this system is still prevalent, right? See, after the death of his father, son goes to offer sacrifices at the lotus feet of Vishnu at Gaya, and thus delivers the father's soul if the father is fallen. But if the son is already an enemy of Vishnu, how in such an inimical mood can he offer sacrifices unto Lord Vishnu's lotus feet? So Krishna is directly the personality of Godhead Vishnu, right? Lord Krishna is directly the personality of God. And Duryodhana was inimical to him. So Duryodhana would be unable to protect his father Dhritarashtra after his death. He himself was to fall down because of his faithlessness towards Vishnu. How then could he protect his father? So Vidura is advising Dhritarashtra to get rid of such an unworthy son as Duryodhana as soon as possible if he was at all anxious to see the good of his family. See, according to the moral instructions of Chanakya Pandita, what is the use of a son who is neither a learned man nor a devotee of the Lord? If the son is not a devotee of the Supreme Lord, he is just like blind eyes, a source of trouble. See, a physician may sometimes advise the extrication of such useless eyes from their sockets so that one can be relieved of the constant trouble. The Prabhupada says in the purport of, I think, 3.1.13. He says Duryodhana was exactly like blind, troubling eyes. He would be a source of great trouble to the family of Dhritarashtra, as foreseen by Vidura. So Vidura, therefore, he rightly advised his eldest brother Dhritarashtra to get rid of this source of trouble. Because Dhritarashtra was wrongly maintaining such personified offense under the mistaken impression that Duryodhana was a good son and he will be able to liberate his father. The scriptures, they always instruct us, even the saints, they instruct us never to lose heart in the face of some impossible odds, right? Sorry. So this instruction seems impossible to follow for conditioned souls. See, the following is a very nice story of a butterfly. A man, he found a cocoon of a butterfly. Cocoon, right? So one day a small opening appeared. He saw and watched the butterfly for several hours as it struggled to force its body through that little hole. Then it seemed to stop making any progress. It appeared as if it has tried as much as possible and it could not go any further. So what did the man do? He decided to help the butterfly. He took a pair of scissors and snipped off the remaining bit of the cocoon. So the butterfly then started coming out easily. But the butterfly had a swollen body and smaller shriveled wings. Now the man continued to watch the butterfly because now he expected that at any moment the wings would enlarge, expand, and he will be able to support the body, and then it will contract, right? So neither happened. The butterfly spent the rest of its life crawling around with a swollen body. It was never able to fly. See what the man in his kindness and haste, right? What did he do? He did not understand was that the restricting cocoon and the struggle required for the butterfly to get through that tiny opening, it was God's way of forcing fluid from the body of the butterfly into its wing so that it would be ready to fly once it achieved its freedom from the cocoon. It is Krishna's way. In the same way, sometimes struggles are exactly what we need in our lives. We should develop the understanding by reading Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, that each struggle in life is sent by Krishna to make us stronger. If Krishna allowed us to go through our life without any obstacles, it would cripple us, just like that butterfly. That's why in Srimad Bhagavatam we find that King Anga was sonless for a long time. He did not have any son. And after he offered oblations to Lord Vishnu, his wife gave birth to a son, Vena. But that boy grew up to be a greatly irreligious person. So after seeing the cruel and merciless behavior of his son, Vena, King Anga became greatly aggrieved and lamented that he was greatly unfortunate to have a bad son. But the wonderful thing is that in course of time, King Anga considered his bad son his friend, since he was helping him to become detached from his home. So the perception of the king is unbelievable. And a great lesson for those of us who are so much attached to our family. That's why in the 46 verse, 413, 46, we just saw, right? A bad son is better than a good son because a good son creates an attachment for home, whereas a bad son does not. A bad son creates a hellish home from which an intelligent man naturally becomes very easily detached. So understood, this is Krishna's plan. So thus thinking, King Anga gave up all attraction for his greatly opulent kingdom. And therefore, what did he do? Unseen by anyone, he very silently gave up his home and the opulence and proceeded towards the forest. So how wonderful are the devotees of the Lord that they could see the blessing of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in any painful situation and take that difficulty itself as an impetus for detachment from home life. See, there are, the 47th purport, Prabhu says there are many instances of great souls leaving home in this way, in the dead of night, giving up attachment for home, wife and money. So attachments to, in 9465 purport, Prabhu says, attached to Dharagara Putrapta, home, wife, children, friendship, society, and love. It's not the way to achieve the favor of Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who is attached to these homely pleasures cannot become a pure devotee. Sometimes a pure devotee may have a habit or attraction for wife, children, and home, but at the same time want to serve the Lord to the best of his ability. For such a devotee, the Lord makes special arrangement to take away the objects of his false attachment and thus free him from the attachment to wife, home, children, friends, and so on. So this is special mercy bestowed upon the devotee to bring him back home, back to Godhead. See, in the 48th verse, Vigyaya nirvidya gatam patim prajaha purohitatmatya suhrud ganadaya vichikyururvyam atishoka katara yata nigudham purusham kuyogina. When it was understood that the king had indifferently left home, all the citizens, priests, ministers, friends, and people in general were greatly aggrieved. They began to search for him all over the world, just as a less experienced mystic searches out the super soul within himself. So they were searching because he left just like that. So example of searching for the super soul within the heart by the less intelligent mystics is very instructive. Sorry. Sorry about it. Excuse me. The absolute truth is understood in three different features. So impersonal Brahman, localized Paramatma, and Supreme Personality Godhead. So such Kuyogina or less intelligent mystics can by mental speculation reach the point of impersonal Brahman only. Cannot find the super soul who is sitting within each living entity. So when the king left, it was certain that he was staying somewhere else. But because the citizens did not know how to find him, they were frustrated like the less intelligent mystics. So the last verse is Alakshayanta padavim prajapater hato dema paratyushpastryatate purim Rishin sametan abhivandya shashravo nyavedayan pauravabhat bhartra viplavam. So when the citizens could not find any trace of the king, after searching for him everywhere, they were very disappointed. And they returned to the city, where all the great sages of the country assembled because of the king's absence. With tears in their eyes, the citizens offered respectful obeisances and informed the sages in full detail that they were unable to find the king anywhere. Thus then the Bhaktivedanta purpose of 4th Canto, 13th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam entitled Description of the Descendants of Dhruva Maharaj. Actually, in the next chapter, we can see actually now there is no king. He's left, right? So they want to find a king. They could not find anybody suitable at that moment. So they approached Sunita, wife of King Anga, mother of King Vena. At least they said, requested him to at least let him be the king for some time. The King Vena was put in the throne. So he was the king, King Vena. And how much atrocities were done, you can see from the next chapter. So I'll stop here. So thank you very much, Mataji. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai Shri Prabhupada ki Anantapuri. Vancha kalpatarupesh kripa sandubhaya vicha patitanam pavanam. Hare Krishna. You have any questions or anything you want to share?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, is what you said was that Angira's wife Sunita was arranged by the Lord so that he could detach from his family life and progress in his spiritual life. I see a similar pastime in Srila Prabhupada's life also, Prabhuji.
Correct. Yes, you're right, Madhuri. Correct. Things happen because that's how it happened. Correct. Very nice, Madhuri.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.